everyone. I know that it has been a long day and you've had a lot of information and it's the last day of school. Um, but before you leave, I wanted to, or we wanted to in the counseling department, give you a little more information on the college essay since many of you will start writing that this summer. So I'm going to go over some of those things. So before I get started, I want to just remind you that the essay is just one element of the college application. It's not going to make or break usually your college application. It's not going to make up for lower grades or test scores than the college typically accepts. But it is good to point out that the essay and letters of recommendation are the only places in your application where your personality comes through. Those are the only places where a narrative about you is presented to the admissions officer. For scholarship applications, though, essays are very important. Usually, scholarships are associated with some sort of mission from an organization. And so they're looking to see if you meet that mission or their purpose. Sometimes they're in memory of someone, so they are trying to give a scholarship in memory of that person, and they want to know who you are so that they can feel good about giving you that scholarship money. I'm going to play a short little video. So here we go.
What can you really accomplish in 650 words? There are a few things you should specifically be aiming for, and all of them are easy enough to accomplish. First of all, you want to make yourself memorable. In advertising, the idea of making yourself memorable is called branding. Celebrities often call it star power. What it really boils down to is finding something about yourself, your experiences, and what you have to offer to the world that is effortlessly recognizable and easily recollected. What will make you stand out in a sea of similarly qualified applicants? If a group of admissions officers is sitting around the decision table, all looking at groups of students with similar GPAs and activity lists, what will make the one reading your essay grab your application, stand up and say, "Take her! Take the dancer who choreographed her presidential election! I want the trapeze artist with the fear of heights. Don't forget that hilarious soccer player with the gnarly feet." An admissions officer should be able to easily recall details that are emblematic of your personality and that are representative of who you are at your core. Your essay should also tell admissions something they don't know. You should use these essays as an opportunity to say something that hasn't been said. This is how I feel about this thing. This is what is important to me. This is what I value. Maybe you talk about the bonding that occurs in morning car rides shared with your mom, or your nerdy love of experimenting with model rocket ships. Wouldn't it be fun to detail your all-consuming allergy to processed foods? We're so sorry about that, by the way. Or maybe compare your talents and inner qualities to your favorite sports cars. The students who are most successful try to reveal something to admissions officers that they would not be able to find on your transcript. And this doesn't mean you can't write about something that already appears on your activity list or in your academic report. What it means is that your essay shouldn't be about the mission of Habitat for Humanity, or even what you did in your community service hours for the organization. Rather, it should be about how your experience with Habitat for Humanity changed your life in a real and compelling way. What unexpected experience did you have there? How did it make you a more complete and interesting person? If you can't tell a story that is personal and revelatory, you should consider looking elsewhere for a topic. Your essay should put your personality on display. Are you studious and curious? Are you sensitive and brave? Are you determined? Are you funny? Are you hungry? Have a donut. These qualities should shine through in your final essay. No matter the topic, an admissions officer should feel like they're getting a giant slice of you in there. Family members and friends should be able to recognize your voice. A good test is to think, would it be weird for anyone else to put his or her name at the top of my essay? If so, you're on the right track.
All right, so that's just kind of an overview of the essay and hopefully gives you a few tidbits. But most importantly, the most important thing to remember is this essay is about you. It's not about anybody else. It's about a little slice of who you are, and we'll give you some resources to help you figure that out in a little bit. I wanted you to take a look at this little short essay. During the summer before my junior year of high school, I spent a weekend volunteering with the poor in post-Katrina, Louisiana, and realized that I am privileged. Most of what these people had been ripped out from under them, and life was very different there from my life in suburban Massachusetts. Amazingly, though, these people still seemed happy. I learned from this experience that money isn't everything. So take a minute, look that over. And I want your thoughts on this short essay. Obviously, this isn't as long as the essays that you will write, but how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 about organization and focus, originality, the writer's voice, freedom from error, and overall success? So did you learn anything about this writer in this little short essay? And if you were the admissions officer reading it, would you accept, reject, or waitlist the writer? So I want you to think about that a little bit. Maybe turn to your neighbor and tell them your thoughts. I'll give you a minute. All right, so I know that wasn't a ton of time, but hopefully you were able to just give a few thoughts to your neighbor about that. I like to call this type of essay a bow tie essay. This is the type of essay that briefly summarizes an experience and then wraps it up with a bow tie. Because of this experience, I learned da 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 da. Those essays, typically speaking, can be written by lots of people, and you want something that's unique to you, a little slice of your life, a little view into who you are. And that doesn't mean that you have to describe your whole personality in 650 words and everything that's important to you. Choose 1 or 2 things that are important to you, or one thing particularly, and find one story that represents that. So I have an article for you. It's on a white sheet of paper called "Some of the More Mundane Moments in Life Make Great Essays." And so I'm going to finish this presentation before I give you an opportunity to read that. But I think as you go through it, maybe spend some time talking about what stands out to you with your neighbor. It's a quick, easy read, but it gives you some insight into the types of essays that are good for college essays. The college essay is really different from other types of essays that you write in your academic life. And so you want to spend some time thinking about how that's different. Before I go over some other resources, I want to say that there are generally 3 types of essays that colleges ask for. The first is the who you are essay, and this is the one that we've been kind of concentrating on. So colleges are asking for a story from your life that demonstrates your character. They are not asking for the story of your life or for an annotated version of your resume. So you're not trying to cram everything that's important to you in that essay. The keys for this type of question are: focus on 1 or 2 example stories of who you are. Think about the most important aspects of yourself and what you want the college to know about. A good story or memory can say a lot about who you are. So those are really about the key elements of who you are as a person. So before you begin this type of story, this type of essay, it's good to kind of talk with your family and friends and kind of spend some time meditating on what is important to you in your life and what are some stories that connect to those important things in your life. The second type of essay is the why us essay. Colleges want to know why you have chosen to apply to a program or their school. You want to start with your goals. Why are these? Why are your goals important to you, and how will the college help you achieve them? Do your research and be specific. So, a good example: if you're applying to Harvard, this why us essay can't be because Harvard is an awesome school. Everybody knows that. Duh. It has to be like, I want to work with this professor in this program, studying, underwater biomes or something like that. So anyway, you want to look at how this college in particular is helping you achieve your goal. How do you think? So sometimes colleges are trying to see if the way that if you can think critically and you're a good fit for the college. So a college will ask about a famous person or your opinion on something in the news or in history. They are looking for creativity and critical thinking. Will you be a student who will contribute in the classroom? So again, you want to do your research. What did the experts say on this topic? Know your facts, but also let your opinions shine through. Don't just quote other people. This type of essay is more of what you have done in the academic part of your life. So you guys typically speaking, you are really good at this type of essay. So this, obviously you might have some questions. Your teachers are really good at helping with essays. Mr. Swick and I are also happy to help. I prefer to have a Google Doc shared with me to go over essays, but ask your teachers when you have them go over it how they would like to edit it or to look over it. But at the end of the day, make sure it doesn't get edited so much that it's not about you anymore. So keep that in mind. I want to go over a couple of resources that I have given to you. We have the article. Another sheet of paper. I was trying to think of a way for you to brainstorm, and so you have this yellow sheet of paper that just kind of starts with what you should be thinking about, kind of to brainstorm those first couple of essays. So I would start with this back side, and so you are at the center of it, and so these hearts are, what are the 4 most important things to your life? So maybe it's something like your family, traveling, volunteering, a church group that you are involved in, your work that you do, something like that. So you put those 4 things here, and then you think of one story that best tells this. One story, like one moment in that. So for example, for your family, maybe you tell a story of how you eat dinner every Sunday night together, regardless of what's going on. Like, that's a priority. And you always cook Italian food or something, or you always get takeout. And so when you're think about the smells that you're smelling, the sounds that you're hearing, the feelings that you have when you're sitting around that dinner table, and kind of describe either that in general or one particular dinner conversation or memory that you have about that dinner. So same thing with like traveling, the first time you took a plane by yourself, the anticipation that you felt. We had a student last year or the year before who wrote an essay about how much he liked being in the airport, even though it was a place of high anxiety. He loved that feeling of anticipation about going on a trip, or that feeling of returning home from a trip. And so that was a good essay, just kind of his love for being in the airport. You got to know him a little bit. So if you talk about volunteering, like maybe you are talking about your experience with one person that you volunteered with. So again, you are trying to write a story that no one else could have written but you. And I know that sounds like a lot of pressure, and I don't mean that to sound like a lot of pressure, because hopefully it will help you feel relieved. Like, these are just my stories. These are just my things that have happened to me in my life, and you can just write it down. And so you're not trying to fit into the box of somebody else's life or what a college wants. You're just sharing a little bit about yourself. I guess the last thing that I would mention on this piece of paper is you're also looking, when you start your essay, you want to think about the hook. And hooks are how are you getting that admissions officer? Remember, admissions officers are reading hundreds, maybe thousands of these essays. And so how can you kind of make yourself memorable? So lots of times those hooks have to do with senses or something unexpected. So a few years ago, Stanford put out the first lines of several of their essays that they had received in that application year. So these are some examples. Some fathers might disapprove of their children handling noxious chemicals in the garage. I have old hands. The spaghetti burbled and slushed around the pan as I stirred it. The noises it gave off began to sound increasingly like bodily functions. I changed my name each time I placed an order at Starbucks. So if you want to see that article, there's lots of different examples. You can find that down here. So hopefully this will just be a good way for you to brainstorm. And so I gave you all a copy of that. And then the final thing, I didn't make copies of this. Now I got to find it. Oops, that's not where I wanted to go. I did not make copies of this for you because it was a lot, but I will send out the resources for you later on. So I will send you a link to this. But this is a bunch of information that there is so much information out there about college essays. As I was kind of trying to put it all together, I made this PDF for you that can kind of give you an idea of where you should start with the college essay. But like I said, I didn't want to make a ton of copies and waste paper, especially on the last day of school. I didn't know how invested you would be on it. So I will send you a link to this PDF and you can print it out or store it or put it in your own Google folder if you want. So the first thing that I would go over for you is not all of you will have to write a narrative college essay. And so I want to make that really clear. And so I tried to put different pathways here. And so if every year we have a portion of our students who are only applying to public schools in Oregon. So typically you will need some sort of essay for the public schools in Oregon, but it's not always a narrative essay. For example, OSU has 5 short answer questions. For U of O, you can also use your common application essay, and in fact, U of O is going to be using the common application this year. So you want to look those over before you start. This middle one, so you'll have your common application. The common application has one main essay, and so later on in this packet, I gave you all the prompts for that essay. And so you have the one main essay, and then sometimes there is supplemental essays for a specific colleges. So some colleges will want you to answer that main essay and then have some specific prompts for their college. Oftentimes it's that why us essay. Why are you choosing to apply to this school? Sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's short answer. I think at Stanford has a bunch, like 20 little tiny 1-sentence essays that you have to answer. So anyway, you want to look over that. And then most of the time, even if you're applying to the common application, you'll also be applying to public universities. And so you want to probably start with this one so that because you may be able to use your common app essay for the public universities over here. And then finally, if you think you're going to start out at community college, and a lot more students are doing that now that there's the Oregon Promise, which is the free 2 years of free college at Oregon public community colleges, then you don't need an essay. It's a pretty straightforward process to apply to community college, but you may need essays for scholarships. And so you want to keep that in mind too. And sometimes scholarships are really specific, like I mentioned earlier. So I kind of tried to do this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6 of writing the essay. I think it's really important that you before you even get started writing the essays, that you list all the prompts that you think that you're going to respond to on a piece of paper or in a Google Doc or Excel doc or something, so that you can spend some time thinking about where the overlaps are. You want to try to save yourself as much time and energy as possible. And so try to, write an essay that you can just tweak a little bit for a lot of your different prompts to help meet it. So really, that will save you time if you spend some time doing that. And like I said before, talking to friends and family about their thoughts, about what's important to you, maybe having them help you remember some of the stories from your past that might be relevant. And then just sit down and write. Like this isn't, you can brainstorm a little bit, but this isn't like other papers. Like sometimes if you just sit down, you turn off your phone, turn off other distractions, turn on music if it helps you, turn it off if it doesn't, and just sit down and write. Don't think about word count. Don't think about, the college that you're applying to. Just write your story. And then in step 5, you can start editing and reread what you wrote, cut out any parts that you need, start to think about word count and all of that. And then have other people look it over for you. So the other pieces of information that I gave you in here this is from It's a Plan, which that is a great website if you haven't already been on it. It has that organizational tool. It has a Google spreadsheet that's already set up for you. Just make a copy of it that you can organize all your college applications on. But anyway, they go over the college application essays and give you some information on that. They give you sample essay prompts. They hadn't updated it for this year, so I erased that. And on the next page, I gave you the new essay prompts for the common application. So it goes over. They did bring back a topic of your choice, which they had gotten rid of it for a few years. So I don't know why they brought it back, because I think a lot of admissions officers liked that it was gone, but apparently for whatever reason, they brought it back. So those are the new essay prompts that you will be referring to for the common application. Remember that the common application is one application for over 700 mostly private colleges and universities in the United States. So actually, they're not just in the United States. Some of them are in other countries as well. These are, again, I think these usually stay the same, but you probably want to check the public school websites to make sure that they're the same. But these are what's called the Insight resume for Oregon State. So these were those short answer essays that I was talking about. This is for Southern Oregon. And then these are the essays for the OSAC scholarships, which that is a common scholarship application for Oregon students. And so we'll talk about that next year. But those are the prompts for that. I put an article in here. This is from a service that helps students do their college essays and apply to college. I am in no way endorsing that service at all. I just really liked the way that she wrote this article. She went over each one of the prompts in the common application and talked about what you should consider, some questions you should ask yourself as you brainstorm. So she went over each one of those, and I thought that there was some good information in there. And this was another article that I found that has an essay in there, and then has a critique from an admissions officer in there. So I thought that was good. And that's all that it is in that packet. And again, I will send you the link out for this packet so that you can either save it or print it out on your own. Before I leave, I wanted to also show you this is a new resource that I just found when I was doing research for this essay lesson, and I thought it was great. So it's John Hopkins Essays That Worked, and there's actually, if you Google Essays That Worked, there's other colleges that do this as well. What I liked about the John Hopkins one is that it gives you the essay here, and then it gives you what the admissions committee said about this essay and why they liked it. And so that can be really helpful too. Oh, the music is starting to play, so my time should probably be over. Anyway, I hope you get some time after this to think about your essay, but also to just have fun and enjoy the last day of school a little bit. And please remember that this summer you want to rest and relax and rejuvenate, but do a little bit of work in there as well just to get yourself set up for the fall. But really, I truly think it's important to give yourself some time to just be 17 years old and to enjoy the summer. So happy summer, you guys. You're all wonderful, and we look forward to working with you next year. Thanks so much.